In this lesson, I'm going to introduce the immediate inference known as contraposition. Contraposition is a little bit like conversion because it's not, if you apply the operation of contraposition to a proposition, it's not always going to be valid. It's only valid in certain kinds, with respect to certain kinds of propositions. So we'll need to figure out which ones result in a valid inference, immediate inference, and which ones do not. As in the previous lessons, I'm going to start by giving you two of the contrapositive of two of our standard form propositions, and I want to see if you can figure out how to develop the contrapositive of the remaining two standard form propositions. So I'm going to give you the contrapositive of the A form proposition. As you'll recall, the A form proposition takes the form all S are P. Now the contrapositive of the A form proposition is all non-P are non-S. Let's consider now the O form proposition. The standard O form proposition states some S are not P. The contrapositive of the O form proposition would be some non-P are not non-S. Push pause as you try to figure out how to generate the contrapositive of both the E form proposition and the I form proposition. After you're done, push play to check your work. Okay, perhaps you were able to discern that the operation that we'll call contraposition involves switching the subject and the predicate terms and then replacing both the subject and predicate terms with their term complements. So it's a two-step process. Notice that we do not change the quality or the quantity of the proposition when we subject it to the operation of contraposition. As I said before, in some cases, with respect to some of our standard form propositions, contraposition is a valid inference, but with respect to others, it is not. It is a valid inference in the case of the A form proposition or the O form proposition, but it is invalid when applied to either the E form or the I form proposition. We can see that this is the case by doing Venn diagrams to depict what is expressed by the contrapositive of each form. So I'm going to start with the A form proposition. Okay, as you'll recall, the A form proposition is diagrammed in this way. The left-hand field of the two-circle diagram is completely shaded in to indicate that it's excluded from possibility. There can't possibly be an S that is a non-P, or that's not a P. Now, the contrapositive of the A form proposition states that all non-P's are non-S's. Ultimately, this is going to result in the exact same diagram, but it's a little hard to go about filling in the diagram because of how convoluted the proposition is. It's a difficult one to wrap your head around, so to speak. So I want to kind of walk through this. The first step, I think, is to recognize where we're going to be doing our work. And so the contrapositive says that all non-P's are non-S's. So the subject of the proposition is the non-P's. Now, the area that is non-P's is everything that is outside of the P circle. So I know that I need to work in, that's where I'm going to do my work. Whatever I shade or whatever I indicate is going to be somewhere outside of the P circle, because that's the non-P's. Now, what I'm told about the things outside of the non-P's is that all of them are non-S's, or in other words, none of them are S's. So what I have to do is exclude from possibility anything that is outside of the P circle, but would be inside the S circle. I need to exclude that. So I shade in the left-hand area of the diagram. When I compare my two diagrams, I see that the diagram for the standard A form proposition, all S are P, is exactly the same as the diagram for the contrapositive, all non-P's are non-S's. And thus I know that this is a valid inference. I can immediately infer one from the other. If one is true, the other one has got to be true. It can't possibly be false. Let's now go to the E-form proposition. This one's even trickier. So the standard E-form proposition is diagrammed in this way. The middle field is shaded to exclude it from possibility, to indicate that there is no S that is also a P. Now the contrapositive says that no non-P's are non-S's. Now, here again, I know that where I need to do my work is outside of the P category, because I'm told something about the non-P's. So working outside the non-P category, what I'm told is that none of them are non-S's. So I need to exclude everything outside the P category that is also outside the S category. And what that means is I have to shade in everything outside of my Venn diagram, which is a weird thing. This is the one time when you'd have to shade something outside of the circle. And so that's what I'm going to do here. Now if I compare my diagrams, I can see that they're very different. The one does not entail the other. And that's why this is an invalid inference. Going on, I'm going to do the O-form proposition. The standard O-form proposition is diagrammed this way. We put a little X or an asterisk in the left-hand field. Now, the contrapositive says that some non-P's are not non-S's. So again, I work outside of the P category. And so I'm going to do something outside the P category. And what I'm going to do is indicate that there is at least one thing outside the P category that is not a non-S. So the non-S area would be everything outside the S category. But what I'm told is that there's one that's not that. So in other words, that it's in the S category. So I put the X in the left-hand field. Here again, when I compare the diagrams, I see that they're identical. So that depicts to me that this is a valid inference. If I'm given an O-form proposition, then I can validly infer it's contrapositive or vice versa. Now what I'd like you to do is see if you can do the Venn diagram for both the standard form I-form proposition and its contrapositive, and then compare the diagrams to see whether, I'll tell you, it should be invalid. The diagram should look different. See if you can correctly do the diagrams. Push pause while you do so, and then when you're done, push play to compare them to the answer. Okay, so the standard I-form proposition is diagrammed by putting an X or an asterisk in the middle field, because some SRP tells us that there's at least one S that is also a P. Now, the contrapositive says some non-P's are non-S's. So we have to work outside of the P category, that's in the non-P area. And we have to indicate that at least one of those things is a non-S. So in other words, that it's also outside of the S category. What that means is I can put my X or my asterisk anywhere outside of the diagram. Doesn't matter where exactly. I've put it right here, but you could have put it somewhere else, as long as it's outside of the circles. The important point is that this diagram is not the same as the diagram for the standard I-form proposition, and so we can conclude that they don't stand in an inferential relationship with one another. If I know the I-form, it doesn't necessarily follow that the contrapositive is true. And if I know that some non-P are non-S's, it does not necessarily follow that some S are P. So the contraposition in the case of an I-form proposition would be an invalid inference.